Luke.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Tom and Luke.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, cheers for giving us some of your time.
Happy to do it.
I mean, kind of like as I emailed you, we've been going through all of our favorite comedies of our lifetime back to '94 and going through, and we've been talking about as many as possible. And Good Luck Chuck's one that we've always thought hasn't perhaps had the appreciation that we feel it should have. So no better person to speak to than yourself, obviously.
Thanks.
I mean, when we were looking back, so I was on your IMDb, and it says that your first kind of credited work is as an editor in 1983 on things like Revenge of the Ninja, Rambo, Predator, The Last Boy Scout. How do you get involved in something as being an editor? Because it seems like something that we wouldn't really know how the path to get into that kind of thing.
Well, I came to Hollywood wanting to be in the film business. It just so happened that the first job that I was lucky enough to land was as a production assistant, a PA on a movie. And on that movie, I was the guy who took the film to the lab and then brought the work print from the lab to the editing rooms. So I got to know the other assistant editor and the editors on that film. And after we wrapped production, I just hung out in the editing room and worked for free for a while until they gave me a little money to stay there, because they had 2 editors and only 1 assistant. So they needed another assistant. So I became an assistant editor on the first film that I worked on. And I just stayed in the editing room then. I assisted on a few films, and then I was working at Canon Films at the time and said, I want to cut a feature. And they had me cut a trailer first, and I did a good job on that. And so they gave me Revenge of the Ninja, and that was my first feature.
I saw like Rambo 2, I think it was like your second or third film in. And are you as excited doing a film like that in the background as perhaps you would be going to see it in the cinema or that kind of thing? Because you're obviously integral to how the film plays out.
Well, yeah, first of all, it wasn't my second or third. It was more like my 4th or 5th film.
Okay.
I did at least 3 films at Canon, maybe 4. And then, then I was lucky enough to join my good friend, Mark Goldblatt, another great editor. And he was on Rambo, and he asked me to join him to co-edit. And to us, it was just another action movie at that point. First Blood had come out. It was a good movie, but it wasn't a huge blockbuster or anything. It was just a real good, simple, small movie. Now, this was a lot larger budget, and going back to Vietnam, all that, there were a lot of explosions and a lot of action. So it was just another film, but with a bigger budget as far as I was concerned. We had no idea it was going to be such a huge hit. I mean, even though it was Sylvester Stallone, that film made at least 5-10 times more than what was expected. It just went,
wow.
It went, the expression went viral back then, but it was huge.
Yeah.
Because we wondered, like, how much kind of creative influence do you have as an editor? Do you work to almost like a brief of this is what we need done, or do you get to kind of do maybe what you think looks, and then you show that to the director, whoever it is, and that's how it plays out?
Yeah, when you're editing during shooting. So okay. Every day you get the dailies, and then once the scene is complete, you start cutting that scene and you put it together. So by the time the feature has wrapped shooting, a couple weeks later, you've got the entire film cut in its editorial, the editor's cut. And so you have a lot of freedom as to how it comes together. Of course, then the director will come in and work with you and hone it down. Sometimes it'll be just the way that director wants it. Other times it's like, let's start over with that scene. That's not what I thought it would be. And you re-edit it. You work together. So initially you have, complete control because you're the only one putting it together as an editor. But after the director gets involved, then you're working as a team.
That's a lot of power on a film like Rambo, I feel. Some of those
it was a lot of fun. There was so much action, and I got to make stuff blow up that didn't blow up in the way they shot it. I took an explosion from some other hut and made the car explode, just using the hut explosion, just doing all kinds of clever editing and printed stuff backwards and things like that, just to make it as big as it was. It was a lot of fun. I mean, we wanted to blow shit up in that.
You definitely did.
I mean, going on then to the kind of directorial work. Good Luck Chuck, the film that we love. Was being a director, was that something that the whole time you've wanted and had a passion to do, or something that you kind of work towards?
I've always wanted to direct, and I love directing. I also love editing, but I definitely worked for years and years trying to get a film to direct. It just so happened to end up being Good Luck Chuck. After years of work, I found a script. I worked on the script, completely reshaped it, and was lucky enough to get a green light on it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole story in itself. This original script was more of a romantic comedy with sort of a PG-13 romantic comedy. But I had the idea of making it a hard R comedy because at that time, there weren't really hard R comedies. Now, this is before Superbad came out. I mean, this is before Superbad was even thought of. I was working on this script trying to make it R-rated because I thought it would be funnier. So at that time, the film was at New Line Cinema, and I pitched my idea to them, and they said, "Yeah, let's go for it." And the way I sold the film to them, I gave Toby Emmerich, who's the head of New Line Cinema, a book called 1,001 Dirtiest Words Ever. And so he was looking through, I said, this, when you look through this book, you laugh because it's really funny. All these words are filthy and they're funny. So I want to sort of take that as a guide to how to juice up this movie and make it really R-rated. And I thought that would be really funny and sort of original at the time. So that's what happened. Josh Stolberg, the writer, and I worked on it and came up with a real good script. But then New Line passed on the film and said, you're free to make it somewhere else. The next day, Lionsgate said, yeah, we'd like to make this film, and we'd like to make it with Dane Cook, because they had just done another comedy with Dane Cook, Employee of the Month.
Yeah.
And he was hot at the time, and so
he was knocking out of the park, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, the next day, it was a go picture, and we just had to get the rest of the cast together and start shooting within a few months, I think.
I saw when I was doing some reading that at the time, Dane Cook had just been put on Time's top 100 most influential people list. So he really was.
He was on a run.
He was riding. He was definitely riding high, and he had the most followers on social
MySpace.
media.
Yeah,
he was a ground setter that way.
And then we always kind of look at the IMDb trivia, and we're never sure kind of how much of that is accurate. And they say that Jennifer Love Hewitt and Jennifer Lopez were considered for the role that eventually goes to Jessica Alba. Is there any truth in that, or is it, again, people just putting names in there?
There is no truth to that. I did meet with other actresses, but those two I did not meet with.
No.
Jennifer Lopez seems to be linked with every job every comedy we've spoken about.
No, in fact, it was Dane who ended up insisting that Jessica Alba do it. So
I'm sure.
yeah, she was. I'd met with a few actresses, and they were all really good, and he was the guy who said, "Now we got to do it with Alba." So,
what was Dane Cook like to work with? Because we obviously see the films. We've enjoyed the films that, particularly in that run there with Waiting in Floyd a Month and Good Luck Chuck. What was it like working with him on kind of such a big film? Because when you hear him talk about this film, it seems like you really kind of locked in and had the same vision for it.
oh, absolutely, yeah. He wanted to go all out for this film too, and it was a blast shooting. I mean, it sounds like a cliche, but it was true. We were laughing every day. We had so much fun shooting this movie and coming up with ideas even on the set sometimes to embellish scenes. And he was game to do anything, obviously. I mean, just look at the movie. He's bare ass doing everything. So he and I saw eye to eye, definitely. We wanted to push the rating, and we wanted to get in as many jokes, crude and otherwise, as we could to see what worked.
Sorry, I was.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, to go. Yeah, sorry. You said obviously Dane was kind of easy to get on board with. You said he obviously does a lot in the film. Was it so easy with Jessica as well? We were saying that we felt like up till then she had done more serious roles. This is one of her earlier comedy roles. Was she straight on board as well?
She definitely was. She wanted to do a comedy very badly, she told me. And I thought she was really good in this movie, better than she had been, because she has comic timing, and she was willing to, do some of the physical stuff, the clumsy stuff, which I thought came off really well. She was game for almost anything.
Yeah, because the joke is so often on her, and I thought, she's done, was it like Fantastic Four earlier that year? Yeah. So she's done some big films where I was thinking, would she buy into it? That's great. I thought with that, was her character supposed to be cursed as well? Because she seemed to have such bad luck that it was alluded to, but never sort of put in stone that she also was once like hexed or something.
I hadn't thought of that she was hexed earlier.
It seemed like she just had such bad luck. I thought, does anyone that
she's really clumsy? That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's how she was written. I don't think she was hexed. She was just an awfully clumsy and definitely a penguin obsessed girl. And we took the penguin obsession to huge heights,
Yeah, when they get to her bedroom,
everything in her bedroom, in her bedroom is penguin themed.
What's it like filming with penguins? Because we've seen people film with dogs and other animals before. I can't imagine you can train a penguin too well, you would think, to star in a Hollywood film.
Well, I found out working with the penguins that penguins smell really funky. And so they have this particular odor that's not very pleasant. So that's the one main thing that I remember working with penguins. And of course, we had a penguin trainer there, but the penguins could only do so many things. Like they could waddle to you, or they could jump into the water and swim, or go down the slide. We had them do that, and that's all we really needed them to do.
Yeah.
But those are real penguins in all those scenes in the aquarium there that we built that. That's a set. We actually built that in Edmonton, I think, and it was, I don't know, I can't remember how many gallons of water we had to put in there, but it was a huge, a lot larger penguin tank than is usually at wherever they have penguins nowadays.
I guess you're lucky that with Jessica Alba, she's clicked that easily with the penguins, because if she was kind of terrified of them or didn't want to be with the animals, then you'd have had a lot tougher time filming all of that.
No, she took to the penguins. The penguins are cute. It's like I said, you just got to get
They just
used
stink.
to the smell.
You said about Dane Cook being pretty much up for anything, and the one scene that probably comes to mind with Good Luck Chuck is the montage of him sleeping with all of the women. And how long did that take to film? Because it seems like you almost must have had like a conveyor belt of women just in front of Dane Cook.
Well, yeah, that was filmed over the course of the entire picture. We basically would get a day's work done and then add a sex scene as dessert. So, because they were all in different locations and with different women, so they were one-offs, but we spread it out throughout the shoot.
And was that very much to guarantee?
It was the task that Dane had to go through before he could leave the set.
Poor guy.
Was that very much to guarantee that R rating as well? Because surely after you've had that extended scene there's no way you're getting any other rating.
That's for sure. We had a lot of nudity, and we knew that would also give us the R rating. And to be fair, my original cut of the film had less of the sex, less nudity. In fact, if you can find it, the original release is just regular, but then they put out this unrated version, which is only 2 minutes longer, but all those 2 minutes, it's all sex. So that's something that Lionsgate asked to do. They said, can we have an unrated cut? Put all the sex in, put all the nudity in. And so we did, and that's the one that they ended up putting out everywhere. I think that's the only one that's on Blu-ray.
I know the cover over here had the grapefruits on the front of it, so I think that was on the poster there as well. So.
Yeah, there were a lot of designs for posters. And then the one here in America was the most bland of all. I mean, just it looks like a romantic comedy, period.
Yeah.
Sweet PG romantic comedy, which I think that was probably a misstep in trying to sell it that way, because if you go into a movie and not know it's a raunchy sex comedy, you might not react the right way. And I think a lot of people did do that.
I was reading up on some like interviews for when the film came out, and it was usually Dane Cook and Jessica Alba together. And there's one where I think Jessica Alba described it as basically porn. And did that do anything to kind of the promo of the film? Because every other interview I saw, she was like speaking glowingly about it. I mean, that one I guess can go either way for how the movie is published.
Who said that?
Jessica Alba. There was one interview,
yeah, I don't know. I didn't read that, but maybe that was her opinion of it.
It seemed like to be in kind of the middle of the press run, because every other interview I saw her saying it's brilliant, it's got something for everyone, and I didn't know if that was something that maybe why the poster was toned down to make people think otherwise.
Well, the poster wasn't toned down in other countries. I mean, there are some posters that had condoms on it and all kinds of real weird stuff. I had nothing to do with any of the promotion as far as visual promotion of the film. That's something that the company does.
Yeah. So. If you kind of Google Good Luck Chuck, you're never far away from reading this story about Dane Cook chipping his tooth while filming. Was that as big of an incident?
It wasn't Dane who chipped his tooth.
Oh, wasn't it?
It was Jessica.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, he was with her. It's the scene where they're frantically making out in the hallway on the way to the bedroom when he finally decides it's safe to be with her. And she's on him and he's smashing her left and right into the side of the hallway, and on one of those smashes, they were kissing, and they smashed too hard, and it chipped Jessica's front tooth.
Oh,
She
Jesus.
came out. So
Yeah.
she had to go to
What's
the
that
dentist
like? How
the
do you
next
handle
morning.
that?
She had to go to the dentist the next morning and have her tooth completely repaired. So, yeah, that was her battle scar from Good Luck Chuck.
That's method acting, isn't it? I think they call that.
Yeah, totally.
We saw Dan Fogler, if I'm saying the name right, has a great role in there as Stu. And we've thought that that's one of the best things about comedies is you do have these paths for great side characters that you don't perhaps get in other genres where you're getting, say, sort of blockbuster actor at the time. So they don't really get the freedom to do that. And he was brilliant in his role. So I wondered if that's something that you'd written in particularly for him.
That role was written before he was cast. I mean, written that way. We were really fortunate enough to find Dan and get him, because I think he was a star on the rise right then. And I think he's brilliant. And he went full out too. I mean, he didn't hold back at all. And it's all in the movie too. And he didn't do much ad-libbing. That's all in the script.
Right. Yeah, he's a great
really
character. He's a lot of fun.
He was so low key when we met him, and even during the read through where the cast gets around a table and they read the script, he was very low key delivering his lines. And I was speaking to the producer after the read through. I was going, "Wow, I hope Dan like puts a little more energy in it when the cameras are rolling." And then when we got to production and the cameras rolled, he was up 100%. From the very first take, we were laughing, trying to not laugh out loud during the scenes because he was so good.
Stick a grapefruit in front of him and he comes alive.
Who knew?
We were going to say about improvisation. You said that with being in the script. How much was there anything that didn't make the movie that you look back on now that was great to film, or just narrowly missed out on the final cut?
There's not that much. I was thinking about this just yesterday. I don't think there was much that we cut out of this movie. Looking back on the film, I haven't seen it for a while, but when I did look at it a few years ago, there are things I wish I would have cut out. There's some things that they're not funny nowadays. They may not have been funny at the time, but and it's certainly not. I mean, certainly in the unrated version, which, being an editor, I wanted it to be shorter. I didn't want it to be longer. So I like the shorter version, and I would have even, I guess, preferred an even shorter version had I kept at it. The way we ended up with the cut that we did is we had one preview. When you do a film, you show it to a preview audience to get a feeling on how it's going to be received. Especially with comedies, previews are very, very important because the filmmakers are sitting there listening to the laughs, hopefully. And if you don't get a laugh at a certain point for a certain joke, then you know that doesn't work, or you might go back to the editing room and try to figure out how can we make it work. But we only had one preview, which I think in retrospect, contractually I had 3 and I should have taken them. But this first preview was so good. The scores were huge and they laughed at everything. So we thought, okay, afterwards, all the executives came up and they were patting my back and said, "It's terrific, it's done, it's finished, fantastic, let's get this out." I wish I would have had more time to hone it down and take out some of the jokes that I sort of winced at. Even though some people laughed, I thought, okay, they're laughing, I'll leave it in. But like I said, that's history, and it is what it is, and it's out there.
I guess on a similar fashion, were there any other endings discussed? For example, does he have to like break the curse in a different way, or maybe just doesn't break it full stop, or was that always the ending you were going with?
Well, this is the ending in the script as we shot it. We didn't change it after the script was written. I'm trying to remember if there was an original. He always got the girl.
Yeah. Never an unhappy ending.
There was never an unhappy ending, not that I can recall. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'd have to go back to the first draft when I came on board this film and see what it was like, but I can't remember now.
Yeah, fair enough.
Just some other kind of points we had just from other things you've done. We saw that you worked as an editor on the first episode of Prison Break and directed an episode in season 4. Is that common, having different directors kind of doing different episodes like the way through?
Yeah, on series, you have a different director almost every episode.
Okay.
So I edited the pilot, and I made it known that I would like to direct one of the episodes. And I would have directed an episode in one of the earlier seasons, but I was busy doing something. And it may have been directing this movie. So I got to direct an episode in season 4, which was
that must have been great fun. We've said Prison Break's one of our favorite series ever.
Yeah, I love it. And directing television is so efficient and so much fun because it's so well oiled. The machine is well oiled. All the DP, the whole crew, and the cast have been working together for a while, especially after the first season. Yeah. So when you come on as a director, it's a well-oiled machine, and all you have to do is be creative and pick, how you want to shoot every scene, and they can do it. You ask, and it can be delivered. It's fantastic. I really, it's so different than doing a feature, because for a feature film, most of these people are working together for the first time. Certainly the cast and the crew. So it takes some time. It takes a week or two before it's moving in sync with everybody. So you don't have that problem or growing pain with television because they've been working together the whole time.
Having been started as an editor, when you then go on as a director, is it tough to delegate to people to do the editing because you're so used to doing it yourself? And I imagine you've got your processes locked in that you kind of want to keep it all to yourself.
Being an editor, I know the value of having an editor, having another point of view from the director, because it's a collaborative art. I know that it's important to have somebody edit other than the director. That's what I believe. Otherwise, it's too myopic, in my opinion. So I was determined to have somebody else cut Good Luck Chuck, and I hired Julia Wong, who I'd worked with on X-Men, and she was actually an assistant of mine years earlier too, because we cut in a very similar style. So I knew I'd be able to work with her very well and use shorthand, if you will, because she knew what I liked and I knew what she would do and so forth.
I saw that you're also, I think it was a second unit director on The Final Destination. So what's that like, directing a film like that compared to directing something like Good Luck Chuck? Because polar opposites, obviously.
Well, yeah, there's just less humor. The stuff I directed on that was action bits. So it was, to me, editing is editing and directing is directing. I mean, I'm sure people definitely have greater strengths in one genre than the other. but I've been fortunate enough to edit all genres, and it's just whatever the project is, that sort of commands how you put it together. I feel the same way about directing. I feel that I can direct anything. It's all determined by what the script is asking.
Yeah.
So I know, and being able to know what you need in the edit makes me, I think, a more efficient director, because I won't shoot things that I know won't end up in the film.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have a preference to which you prefer doing the editing or the directing?
I love them both. I have to say, I love directing because you're in control, and I like answering all the questions that everybody brings to you. So I hope I get to direct some more, but I love editing too, because really that's the final rewrite. You're putting together the film. You can take something that was directed one way and it ends up being edited completely different, because it ends up being that's what works best.
Yeah.
So they're both very creative.
Well, thank you for giving us so much of your time today. We really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm curious, what parts of Good Luck Chuck do you like the best?
The bit that always makes me laugh probably more than most is him, I forget the name, when the woman's lying down by the pool and he has to approach her knowing that he's got to go through that. Yeah.
I think pretty much anything involving Stu is just, he's a hilarious character.
Yeah, Stu is great. I mean, and he's great in the Fantastic Beasts movies. I mean, he's fantastic. Dan is great.
Agreed.
Yep. Again, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay.